Welcome to another episode of the Jim Roman Show. I'm Jim Roman, I'm your host, and welcome. This is a show that we talk about how to build a better business so you can build a better life. We want to welcome you to another episode. In this series, we're talking about removing the roadblocks to growth, success stories that we've had over the years that hopefully will inspire you and encourage you to take action on your own business. So let's welcome you and get started. If this is your first time joining us in our episode, we ask you to comment below, submit questions. We check those when they're live as well as offline when we have it pre-recorded. If you like the content, please feel free to like, follow, and share and subscribe so that you can get up to date on coming topics and other subject matters that we're covering. So let's jump into today's topic. Today's topic is removing the roadblocks to growth. It's a part of the series. If you joined us in the first part of the series, we talked about companies who are starting out. You're just getting going. What can you do to remove the roadblocks? And each week we're picking a different stage. So whether you're new to business or an existing business, whether you have 0 employees or 20 plus employees, we hope that these principles of these episodes will make a big difference. Today, I want to take a different spin that I've taken before in these episodes to include last week. What I want to talk about in removing the roadblocks to growth is what you can do to remove mental issues, financial issues, and physical. In other words, in growing a business, you have mental, financial, and physical roadblocks to get in the way of your success. And I don't talk about this often because if you know me, I'm a pretty positive guy. And that's not by accident. I work to be positive on a regular, consistent basis. I am not always positive. That's a fact. In fact, when I'm not positive, I stay home. I don't do recordings like this. And so I thought I would share with you some of the success stories we've had over the years to help people through mental roadblocks, financial roadblocks, and physical roadblocks. Again, whether you're new to business or existing business, 0 employees to 100 employees, I think these principles will make a big difference. So I've taken notes that I'll be looking at from time to time because I really want to give you the biggest impact in this special episode. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about the mental, financial, and physical aspects of business. When you're starting a business, the mental is pretty much handled. You're positive. You're like, I'm excited starting a new business. I got this new product or service. And so mentally, a lot of times that's not a problem. You're just excited. Sometimes a little scared, a little nervous, but usually excitement takes over. Your challenge is going to be the financial issue, is making it actually a viable business. And over time, that will take a toll on you mentally. And then physically, you really don't have to worry about that. Just go get some sales, bring the business in, you'll be good to go. Don't bring the business in, then we have a problem. And so that's typically what happens when someone starts a business. Now, if you've been in business from, say, around 1 year to 2 years, that starts to change. Mentally, if you've been in business for 1 to 2 years, you're starting to have that ups and downs, good days and bad days. You're positive and then you're negative, and then you're positive and you're negative. So if you're in business for 1 to 2 years, you're probably experiencing that. Hopefully that resonates with you. Financially, same thing. A lot of times within 1 to 2 years of experience, we have found that financially your revenues start to decline. They start to decline either because you're going after anybody and you're really getting nobody that really can afford you, or you're going after a target market you're not passionate about, or you're not marketing effectively to draw in business. So between the 1 and 2 year mark, we start to see people's financial situations start to decline. We'll talk about that today and how to remedy that. And then organizationally, depending on how well you did in the first year to the second year, you're having challenges getting the work done. You have nobody to delegate to, or if you do, they're not doing the best job, and that's affecting you mentally. And then that affects you financially because you stop selling, because you can't bring in more business if you can't get the work done. And if you don't get the work done, you can't bring in more business. And so that's the roller coaster ride, mentally, financially, and physically. And then if you get lucky to get to 2 or more years, this is an interesting dynamic that I find in removing the roadblocks. 1, and you're in your year 2, and this could be in other years, don't get me wrong, but if you have money, you have a positive attitude. If you don't have any money, you have a negative attitude. I'll give an example that I remember back in the day. I was taking a leadership course up in Northern Virginia. I happened to be staying at a friend's house, and I was reading this little book about budgeting. And I didn't care for budgeting. Who cares about budgeting? But I started reading the book, and one of the first chapters it said, just because you have money in your checking account doesn't mean you can spend it. I was like, what? I read it again. Just because you have money in your savings account, your business account, your checking account, doesn't mean you can spend it. I found that intriguing. So I read further. And what it meant to say is that some of that money should be allocated for insurances and bills that you get throughout the year. So if you spend that money today, you won't have that money tomorrow when that bill comes in. For example, my insurance bill for my company is coming in June 1st. I have money in the bank for that particular bill. So that's money I can't spend because it's already allocated. And so often I find that when our checking accounts go down, so do our attitudes, our energy, our affect. I remember one day, I had X amount of dollars in my checking account and it started going down and going down, and I started going down and going down and going down. I'm like, whoa, why am I allowing my checking account to affect my mental accounts? I just had to realize that I needed to disconnect that. So again, if you're in business, a lot of times when you don't have money, that affects your mental attitude, and that becomes a roadblock to growth. And my suggestion is to figure out a way to get past that. If you'd like to talk more about that, comment below, reach out to us via messenger, email, and/or schedule one of our complimentary coaching calls, and we can talk about that mental aspect of money that is so prevalent in all sizes of businesses in the world. The other thing that I find that happens in the 2-year to 3-year mark is you lose sight of what you were trying to accomplish in the first place. If you're in a place where you're feeling kind of down, you might want to be asking yourself, do you remember why you do what you do, where you're headed? I know for myself, a lot of times when we get through tough times and stressful times, I forget my purpose and passion. I forget what I'm trying to accomplish. I want to give up and throw in the towel. Yes, 16 years later, I still have that feeling of wanting to give up and quit because it gets overwhelming and I just don't want to deal with it. And then I get over my pity party, and then I remind myself, what am I trying to accomplish? What difference do I want to make in the world? And ultimately, why do I do what I do? And so often that's a roadblock. A roadblock is that you lose positive mental attitude, and you just need to figure out a way to reshift that. And that is part of our 5 drivers program that we've talked about so many times. The why and the where and the what make a big difference in keeping your brain in the positive light. Second thing that happens in 2 years or more is your financial situation. So financially, in 2 years or more, a lot of times you'll have that ups and downs. Like I said earlier, you have the mental ups and downs, but you also have the financial ups and downs. And the reason being, I have found a lot of times, is number one, you're not bringing business in on a regular and consistent basis. Okay, what you're doing is you're bringing the business and then you're stopping to get the work done. And then you get the work done, now you have to go back to bringing the business. And that's why you have that teeter-totter, that up and down, that roller coaster effect. Whereas if it were me and I were you, one of the ways of removing that roadblock is always be bringing in business on a regular, consistent basis. I know, you can't handle any more business. Figure out a way to handle more business. That is the biggest thing that I think the most successful companies done is they never, ever stop bringing in business. Now they might figure out different type of business that comes in, so it takes longer to come in, but still always bringing the business. And I think we play that game that we can stop. And I say, never stop, figure out how to handle it. I'll give you an example. I've told this story many times before. When I used to own 2 B&I franchises in Virginia, it got to a point where I was getting 3 qualified referrals a day. And I was like, oh my God, I can't handle any more business. I need to stop. And I caught myself saying, no, you don't stop. You come up with a solution. So I went to my mentor and I said, hey, I got more business than I can handle. What should I do? Fortunate enough, I was coming up to our conference, our franchise conference, and my mentor suggested I sit down with a successful director and ask them what they would do if they're in my situation. And I was blessed to sit down with a gentleman named Jerry Schwartz from New Jersey area. And Jerry shared with me, in Maryland, I think as well, Maryland area, Jerry shared with me, find somebody to help you to manage the referrals, handle the referrals, so that you can do what you need to do. And that was one of the best advices I got. I went on to making 6 figures because of that advice and went to sell that business for a lot of money. And I thank Jerry and all my other mentors, Lisa and Art, and those people who helped me to get there, and many, many more, Paul and Bill, and so many mentors that have helped me get me where I am today. But the point of this is sometimes we stop bringing in business, and that's a roadblock to growth. Figure out how to handle it all. Figure out how to bring in more business while getting it done. The second challenge that people do is that they are not, what did I write down here? I wrote down, They need more business because they need more money, right? And so often what the challenge comes for that is that needing aspect of it. I would suggest that you start to do what I would say is cash flow projections. A lot of times people have not done what I would call a cash calculation on figuring how much money do you need on a daily, monthly, quarterly basis, so that you're not worried about that. You can actually predict that, so that as you bring the business in, it's no longer a need, it's more of a want, and bring that business in. So financially, when you get to 2 or more years, you're going to have those ups and downs. Again, I think it's 1, because you're not bringing a business on a regular consistent basis. You're not getting other people to do the work with you or for you, and you don't know your numbers. You don't know the math to make all that happen, and that is a big roadblock I have found. And then finally, the physical aspect of 2 years or more is, again, the physical aspect of is how people organize their business, how they juggle between bringing a business and getting the work done, and ultimately getting the right people in the right position. I find so often people don't hire because they don't know how much it's going to cost to hire them. Let me say that again. I find a lot of times people's reluctance in hiring people is because they haven't done the math on what it's going to cost to hire. And sometimes you can hire somebody for as little as $200 a week, part-time, to help you get over that next hump, over that next roadblock. $200 a week. That's maybe no more than $1,000 a month. How much would you have to sell to be able to pay for someone, say around $1,000? A lot of times, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 sales at the most. How much are you losing by not getting it done and getting more sales? I think you can't afford not to hire somebody, and figuring out the math to do that will make the biggest difference. So I just wanted to open up this episode. Please feel free to comment below. I'll check those after the episode, because right now I want to focus on my audience, everyone around the world listening in right now. But comment below where you are in business. Are you a startup? Or you've been around for a while? You 1 year, 2 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. You have 0 employees, 20 employees. Please comment below where you are, and more importantly, what is your biggest challenge you're facing right now? Now what I want to do is I want to jump into specific stories, success stories that may inspire you and encourage you to take action in the areas of removing the roadblocks mentally, financially, and physically. So the first story I want to talk about, you hear me talk about this relentlessly, is a lot of industries I work with: real estate, property management, construction. One of the roadblocks to growth is the mental and positive attitude, right? I remember working with a realtor. I talked about this last week, where she was in business for quite some time, pretty successful, but lost her mojo, lost her enthusiasm. And when I asked her why she did what she did, it was to sell houses so people could have homes. And as I dug deeper, deeper, deeper into really why she does what she does, if you listened last week, she said to me, I want to help people with one of the biggest investments of their life, one of the most important decisions they're going to make, to buy that home, to raise that family. Because a family is part of a community, and that's why I do what I do, Jim. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. There's a lot of times that purpose and passion is that roadblock. In this case, this real estate agent, she found her purpose and passion again, went on to becoming more successful. So that's what you could be doing, just an example of that. Another example of somebody I want to share with you that remove the roadblocks to growth in the beginning stages is knowing the number of appointments that someone needs. Do you know how many appointments you need on a weekly basis? How many presentations, proposals do you need to do on a weekly basis to not only hit your number, but to double your number? I know so many people out there that just work, and they just don't hit their numbers because they're overworking themselves to death. For example, if I was in charge of business development for a property management company, and I determined that I wanted to bring on 3 doors a week, okay, 3 new properties a week, how many people do I need to talk to be able to talk to people about getting 3 doors or more a week? Then I would take it a step further. What networking would I have to do to be able to meet the type of people that I need to talk to present to ultimately bring in, say, 3 doors a week? See, so often we don't break down those bite-sized pieces. And so if it were me, I would try to figure out from my 2 to 3 networks, to include my current and past customers, how to get in front of them, to have conversations with them about managing their properties, so that ultimately I would do, say, 6 presentations to get actually 3 doors. or maybe 2 presentations with bigger investors to get more doors. I find so often the roadblock to growth in that case is we haven't done the math. We haven't figured that out. I'll go steps so further that people have not figured out enough of the right effective strategies for bringing a business. Again, using the property management example, I work with a lot of property managers around the country. One of your best sources is who? Real estate agents, current customers and past customers, and networks like referral groups, chambers of commerce, or investment groups. Working your networks to get in front of enough people to present, knowing the number of presentations to get closed business is a game changer in removing that particular roadblock to growth. Now, say you're a bigger business and you want to be able to solve it for that. I find so often that people trying to go to $250,000 or more is they haven't figured out who they want to truly serve. Again, another roadblock to growth mentally is knowing who you want to serve. So often people say, I want anybody. And usually you get a nobody that's going to do business with you. I find a roadblock to growth is making sure you have the right target market with the right marketing message that brings that all together. For example, in coaching and consulting, there's a lot of coaches out there that will work with startups. The challenge with startups is they don't have enough money to continue coaching. So if you're a coach and you're working with startups and you keep on losing customer after customer after customer, it may be because you're dealing with startups. There's nothing wrong with that, but be prepared to have enough coaching clients so that when you lose those clients because they don't have the money, then you can still stay in business. Then there are people who want companies that are 10 million or more. They're consultants and they go out to 10 million or more. The good news is there, not many people are playing in that place and you get to win out. But the challenge is finding $10 million or more companies isn't easy. Now I have a way of teaching you how to do that. We don't focus on 10 million or more. We refer that out to other consultants who do that. We have our sweet spot that we love working in that most people can't contend in or stay in because they haven't cracked the code. Being a micro to millions coach, I figured it out. And so it worked for us. But again, if you're doing 10 million or more, the challenge there is finding them. My point of all this is maybe for you, your roadblock currently, mentally as well as financially, is you haven't figured out a market that needs, wants, and willing to buy your product and services. I talked about this, I think last week or the episode before that. We were working with a contracting company, someone who did decks and remodeling and stuff like that. And their average sale at that time was $3,000. The problem with that, the cost of doing a $3,000 deck was expensive because they had crews, they had trucks, they had expenses that you didn't make a lot of money off of $3,000 decks. Now, if you could do a $6,000 deck or a $6,000 project or a $6,000 target market, there was some money in that you could afford to do that over and over and over again. And then eventually, if you want to do $10,000 projects, then that's a whole nother animal, a whole nother beast. But then that have you do less jobs per month can make the biggest difference. So some of us are having the challenges mentally and financially is that you're not going after the market that makes a difference, that you feel like you're making an impact, or that you can make enough money off that. I'll give you one last example of that, and that's in the real estate industry. We've worked with a lot of realtors over the last 20 years, from my B&I experience to my consulting business now. A lot of realtors will ask for anybody looking to buy a house. Yeah, that means you're brand new in the business. Where what I have found out, some people love the market of first-time home buyers. They love helping people to do that. Other people love to help people downsize, like empty nesters. And then other people like helping the senior elder market and helping them to downsize into something smaller. And they have a purpose and passion behind that. So whether you love first-time home buyers, investors, people buying their second or third home, people downsizing to the empty nesters, or even helping senior people go smaller because of health reasons and or just not having to deal with the overwhelming bigger house things, that can make the biggest difference for you as well. What else can I share with you today? I got so much to share. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. Another example of companies that are been around 2 or more years, having 3 or more employees, maybe doing $200,000 or more, I find that they are not spending their marketing dollars correctly. I remember working with an IT company up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and this gentleman was losing $8,000 a month. He owned a franchise, it was an IT company, and he was literally losing $8,000 a month. And I said to Michael, what's going on? He says, our franchise requires us to spend money on advertising. And so I'm spending around $8,000 a month on advertising, and it's not seeming to work. I said, what if I can show you a way to spend $8,000, but to actually make $8,000? He goes, what do you mean? We ultimately reallocated the way he invested his dollars in marketing and advertising. In other words, instead of spending $8,000 of all of it advertising, we took in part of that, creating what we do is create raving fans marketing. In other words, schmoozing and wooing your current customers and past customers to give you referrals or to give them an experience that they tell about other people. And so ultimately, we gave him different ways of marketing his business so that it wasn't 100% advertising. We did a mix of marketing, networking, relationship-based marketing, schmoozing, as well as investing into himself, that in the end, within 1 year, he went from doing a negative $8,000 a month to making $8,000 a month, all just reallocating his dollars and where he spent his time in bringing his business. So if you're losing money on marketing and advertising, I highly recommend you reach out to us. We have a lot of advertising and marketing experts that we refer, we trust, whether it's Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, maximizing your website, your Google My Business, to include networking and marketing services. Please post below, message me. I'd be more than glad to make that connection for you. What's another challenge that people do physically, the roadblock to growth? A lot of times I find, again, most people aren't delegating enough. Are you wearing many hats? Are you bringing in business? Are you getting the work done? Are you doing accounting and finance? Are you doing customer service? Are you doing servicing of this, that, and the other, and you just don't have enough time? Well, guess what? It's time to delegate. It's time to consider hiring somebody. I remember somebody that we were working with, still working with, to be honest with you, they just didn't have enough time. They didn't have anybody to delegate to, or they didn't have enough people to delegate more to. And sometimes that physical aspect of your business, how you organize your business, makes a world of difference. Two perspectives on this. Number one, working with a contractor, remodeler, handyman services. One of the ways we scaled their business is we departmentalized their business. We created divisions for their business. We had a small projects division, a special projects division, and a big projects division. By dividing it up into workable chunks and workable areas, we were able to find people to position them to get the work done. Another example is this person who needed to delegate, and I suggested that they hire a part-time person, like I have. I have a part-time bookkeeper, I have a part-time executive assistant, I have a part-time marketing / content creator, and now I just hired a marketing networking person on my team. They're all part-time people who have other clients like me, and I get them at a fraction of the cost with amazing value and amazing results. I wouldn't have been where I'm at today if I didn't do that. And so I was talking to this particular coach, and I suggested she hire, essentially threatened she should hire, and she pulled the trigger. She couldn't afford to. I said she couldn't afford not to. Did it. It was one of the best decisions she ever made. She has doubled in business just by hiring a part-time person. So I'm going to suggest, if you haven't hired somebody recently, you should. If you've never hired somebody, you should. If you should hire the next person, please do. And please reach out. We can have people help you to do that, give you some resources to make all that happen. I can go on and on and on and talk about the mental, financial, and physical aspects, but I'd rather hear from you and use real live examples to help make a bigger difference, because I'm all about the more you know, the more we grow, and the live examples makes the biggest difference. So I want to finish up out of respect for your time, for those listening online or watching us after we record this, or even watching me right now. Thank you for being here today. So what I want to finish up with is just recap what we talked about. Really three things today. Number one of the ways of removing the roadblocks, no matter what size company you are, is have a positive mental attitude. Have a positive mental attitude. Through the stages of business owners, as I mentioned many times before, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. I'd rather you to smooth the downs and move them up. And one of the ways of doing that is having a positive mental attitude. So that's reminding yourself why you do what you do, what you want to do, and the difference you want to make in the world, and ultimately where are you headed. We lose sight of that so often in the journey, climbing the success ladder. And I argue that we can get back to those purpose and passions, our visions and missions, and our dreams and aspirations. That'll remove the roadblock quicker than anything I need. Number two, I talked about today is don't spend money to make money. Make money so you can spend money. I'll say that again. I'm going to scream it from the top of the rooftops. Do not spend money to make money. Make money so you can spend money. Please, please, please do this. I went broke and bankrupt in my first business. I even went homeless because I was spending more than I was bringing in. I had more outgo than I had income. And I don't want the same thing to happen to you. And 20 years later, I haven't made that same mistake, and I'm going to encourage you not to do the same thing. How do you do that? Please reach out to me. I'd be more than glad to do that. And then finally, the third thing we've summed up really simply is organize your business. It will organize your life. You could argue organizing your life will organize your business, but we're in the business coaching and consulting business. So we're going to help you organize your business so that you can have a more organized life. I hope you're getting value out of these series. As always, if you wouldn't mind, if you like it, please follow us on social media. We're on all the major platforms. Share, like, and follow. We would love to be able to reach more people to make a bigger impact. Again, I want to thank you for another episode of the Jim Roman Show. I'm Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we all grow. Thank you, and God bless, and have a great day.